Hello, this is Mr. Chabry, and we're here with another narrated Pokemon battle. So this is going to be an Uber battle against TheAmazingMoTV. So TheAmazingMoTV is someone that jumped onto my Twitch stream a few weeks ago, and he wanted to do an Uber battle. So I don't really do that many Uber battles, so let's go ahead and pop out some of these Uber Pokemon that we don't really get to see that often. So I'm going to lead off with my Yveltal as my opponent leads off with Smeargle. So the thing about Smeargle is most of the time they try to set up Sticky Web, Stealth Rock, Spore, stuff like that. So I'm actually going to taunt first turn. I'm going to try my best to prevent this thing from doing anything like that. And that's a really good play. And now my opponent will switch out the Smeargle and bring in his own Yveltal. And this turn, I'm just going to go knock off. It would have been so nice to knock off whatever Smeargle had. Most of the time, Smeargles do have a Focus Sash, so that's what I'm expecting. But it's okay to knock off this thing's Metronome, which is an interesting item. You don't see that often. It makes a move do more damage the more you use it. So that's actually pretty interesting. I'm going to go for the Oblivion Wing here, get some health back, as my opponent's actually going to go for his own Oblivion Wing. And looking at that, it seems like mine actually did a little bit more damage there. So I'm feeling pretty well safe in going for another Oblivion Wing, as my opponent will now switch out, send out the Xerneas, and we're just going to hit this thing with an Oblivion Wing. So we're going to hit it, try to get as much health back as we can. I'm really wanting to get some health back onto my Yveltal so it can live later on. But this thing actually takes that pretty well. Seems to be more of a specially bulky Xerneas, but I'm going to actually switch out and go into Groudon. Groudon should be able to take anything that Xerneas wants to do. And I'm actually scared of this thing going for a Geomancy. That's actually what I'm most afraid of. But I've got Roar on my Groudon, so that way if it does go for that, I can just roar it out. So we're going to set up the Desolate Land, as my opponent will now go into the Smeargle. And I really, like I said, I'm very nervous about what this thing will do. It of course has Sticky Web, we saw that earlier. But now my opponent's actually going to go for a Spore. That would take care of my Yveltal if I try to switch it in to, taunt this thing again. But unfortunately, Groudon will go to sleep, and that's actually not a good thing for me. I'm going to have to switch here because I need to be more on the offensive here. And I'm going to actually go into my Kyogre, so of course we're going to get the Primal Kyogre, just like we did with the Groudon. These Pokemon are really good, especially with their primal forms. I really think Oris really helped these two out. But yeah, we got the Primordial Sea here, and unfortunately for me, the Sticky Webs will be put on the field. So that's going to make it a little bit tougher for me, especially since my opponent has some Pokemon that now will outspeed me. But I'm actually predicting my opponent to go into his own Groudon, because that would mean I won't be able to go for a Water move with my Kyogre because of the Desolate Land. So I'm actually going to predict that and go for an Ice Beam here. Ice Beam would have did a lot of damage to Smeargle anyway, and I'm still predicting that to have a Sash. So I felt like Ice Beam was the safest play. It hits this thing decently, of course. This thing's a very bulky Pokemon, so it doesn't really do that much, but I'm going to have to switch into something, and I'm going to pick my Lugia as the thing I switch into, as my opponent's actually going to make his own switch and go back into, or go into rather, the Necrozma, Dusk main Necrozma. So this is a Pokemon I don't see that often either, so I don't know exactly what it does. I know it's a Steel Psychic type. I know Solgaleo, a lot of people use it as more of a bulkier Pokemon, or at least I do. But I don't know exactly what Necrozma Dusk main does. So I'm going to Whirlwind that out, as unfortunately we're going to have Stealth Rocks on our side of the field now. So my opponent's actually going to switch and go back into this, predicting the Toxic probably, as that's what I'm going to go for. And Toxic isn't going to touch this Steel type Lion. So now I'm going to go into my Kyogre here. I need something that can live a Sunsteel Strike, and I need to put some more pressure on my opponent. So I'm going to go into Kyogre. I'm hoping I can hit something very hard, as my opponent will now go for his own Toxic. So I'm actually okay with not having Toxic on Lugia, because Lugia is more of a bulky Pokemon, and I kind of need it to be healthy, especially with the multi-scale ability. And we've got Roost on that, so it'll help us out in survivability. But now our poor Kyogre has been Toxic, and I do not like that. And my opponent's going to go for the Sunsteel Strike. It's not very effective, but unfortunately, I went for Origin Pulse, and we missed. That would have been a great thing there if we connected, but now I'm kind of nervous that my opponent might predict that Origin Pulse again and go into Groudon. So this time I make a play, I go for Ice Beam, but unfortunately my opponent's just going to stay in and go for another Sunsteel Strike, so Ice Beam is not going to do much to this Necrozma Dusk main. So unfortunately that prediction didn't pan out. And now I've got my Kyogre in really low health. So at this point, I'm pretty sure my opponent will just, Sunsteel Strike again and finish me off. There's not much I can do, but my opponent actually goes into Groudon, probably to get some more momentum, maybe to prevent me from switching into a certain Pokemon after Kyogre goes down. But I actually go Origin Pulse this time, because I thought it didn't matter, but unfortunately, that means Kyogre's not going to be able to do anything the last few turns, so that's very unfortunate. I would have been in a much better position if that Origin Pulse hit, but of course, that Necrozma could be a more specially bulky set, and it probably wouldn't have done much anyway. So I'm going to go into Yveltal here, as my opponent's going to make a switch, not stay in with that Groudon, and go back into the Smeargle, trying to set up more stuff probably. Of course, my own Groudon is still asleep, so Sleep Claws is still in effect. So my opponent cannot Spore me, so I'm just going to go for a Dark Pulse and, do as much damage as it can, bring it down to the Sash, and now my opponent will go for a Magic Coat. Honestly, I think my opponent was predicting a taunt there, but I don't really have a reason to taunt because the next hit will finish off the Smeargle. So I'm just going to knock off this turn, and that will finish Smeargle. And unfortunately, now the Arceus comes in. So this is, if it's like most Arceuses, it's a Swords Dance Extreme Speed. And it shows me that it did have the Swords Dance, and it does have the Extreme Speed. So this is the E-Killer Arceus. Those are a very scary set of Arceus. It would be a lot better if I had a Marshadow to take care of this thing, but I don't have my Marshadow. And unfortunately, we're going to have to be playing around this huge threat now. So I'm going to go into Bambi. And Bambi's a really good Pokemon. Fortunately, it's going to have a hard time here, especially with this thing here. I'm going to go for a Geomancy in an effort to try to turn the game around. I'm thinking I'm on the defensive here, and I need to do something to gain more momentum. So I'm going to go ahead, Geomancy up. That will boost my special attack, special defense, and speed. That's the best thing about Xerneas. It has such a great boosting move, and if you give it a white herb, it's going to boost that first turn. So we got that nice stat boost. And unfortunately, this thing is here, and it's a big threat to me. I'm going to go Focus Blast because it's neutral damage on it, and it should do some decent damage, but it does a little bit over half. I was hoping it would do more, but there's not much I could do about this, and we're going to take a nasty Sunsteel Strike onto Bambi, and Bambi will not like that at all. So we lose our Xerneas here. That's very unfortunate, but this thing is putting a lot of work, this Necrozma Dusk main, so we're trying our hardest to play around it, but it's doing some decent work with that Toxic Stealth Rocks, Sunsteel Strike. I don't know what the other move is. I might have seen it, I just don't remember, but it's a Pokemon I haven't seen that often in battle, so it's doing pretty good work. The Morning Sun, that's its last move. Okay, so I go into Groudon, and it takes advantage of the Desolate Land to boost up its own health. So, unfortunately for me, that's actually really bad for me. I did not realize it would have Morning Sun, but it does, and now this thing is even more of a threat. So, my poor Groudon is still asleep. I'm hoping that we wake up, that we could do something here. But unfortunately, we're going to be continuing our snooze. And actually, I went for Fire Punch because I did know my opponent still had some flying types. This is Yveltal. And I would have been able to do some, not Fire Punch, but Lava Plume, excuse me. But I would have been able to do some more damage with Lava Plume. But unfortunately, we don't wake up that turn. And when we do wake up, it's not going to quite take it out. And we're going to fall for the taunt. That doesn't matter. I'm going to try to turn the game around with Lava Plume. I feel like Stealth Rocks doesn't really help me out that well, especially because Arceus doesn't really care too much about Stealth Rocks. It just comes in and extreme speeds things. And also, my opponent's Necrozma doesn't care about it. But now I'm going to go Lava Plume. This thing got a Swords Dance up, and I want to burn it. But we don't burn it, and I think that's basically the game here. So we're going to lose Groudon. Groudon's our best hope, I feel like. But now I'm basically being swept. I'm hoping Rayquaza might be able to outspeed, but I should have been thinking about it. Arceus is faster than Rayquaza naturally, so our extreme speed won't be able to outspeed it. What I should have probably did was go Lugia, Whirlwind, but then I would still be at a disadvantage. So, unfortunately, Arceus is going to finish us off. Of course, Lugia actually survives this +2 Shadow Claw without the Multi-Scale. So, that just shows you how good Lugia is. It's a really nice bulky Pokemon. I finally get the Whirlwind off, but that just brings in this thing, and there's not much I could do at this point. The thing about this Lugia is it doesn't have any offensive moves. It's Toxic, Roost, Whirlwind, Substitute. So I don't really have much, and unfortunately for me, my opponent has that Necrozma Dusk main, so I can't do anything to that. And yeah, what I'm hoping for is to be able to... Yeah, there's no way I can finish this. The only way I could see possibly maybe winning this is if I had Stealth Rocks up and I just Whirlwinded. That's such a long shot. I don't think that would have mattered anyway. We take a Twinkle Tackle, though, but Lugia with its beautiful bulk will survive that. But at this point, I'm looking at my opponent's team, and I realize there's no way I'm going to win. So I'm just going to, continue just... I tried to Toxic there, but it doesn't matter because we miss. And even if we connected, we would have been taken out. Anyway, so unfortunately, Necrozma Dusk main put in a lot of work, and Arceus is a huge threat. We didn't get the burn on it, which was what I really, really needed. So that's the game. So if you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I will see you in the next Pokemon video.